There's more than one way to get me up here. Wow, this is not good. The Holy Gospel for today comes from the Gospel of Mark in the 9th chapter. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, and led them to a high mountain apart from all, and by themselves they were there. And at that time, Jesus was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them. And there appeared with Jesus Elijah and Moses, and they were talking with him. Then Peter said to Jesus, "Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." For Peter did not know what to say because he was terrified. Then a cloud overshadowed them, and from that cloud there came a voice, "This is my Son, the beloved. Listen to him." Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one with them, but only Jesus. And as they were coming down from the mountain, Jesus ordered them to tell no one about what they had seen until after the Son of Man had risen from the dead. This is the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Christ.
Whoa. Who would have thought that a sermon about the Transfiguration mountaintop experience would happen up here? Certainly not me. I can tell you one thing, the air is lighter. So if you find myself just kind of weaving, watch me. I'm wondering, how many of you have ever had that type of experience in your life? That kind of moment that was so awesome and so wonderful that you couldn't forget it. You know, that experience that it just had to be in awe. It just like, you couldn't describe it almost. And it just stays with you. I remember there are several experiences in my life, and I'm sure each and every one of you, if we took a moment to share with each other what that experience might be, you could come up with one. One of my experiences, I'd have to say, was at the birth of my first daughter, Sarah. I can still remember being in that delivery room. I can remember after about 23 hours of labor. I can remember after telling Jean that we didn't have to name, if it was a boy, we didn't have to name that child Waldemar. I can remember when the nurse held the child, Sarah, in her hands, and I remember that feeling of just awe. And then the thing I still remember is the tears that came down onto my cheeks. Big boys don't cry, but this one did. That was the first time I realized there can be tears of joy. I also remember counting fingers and toes, and I said to myself, how silly you are. All you wanted was just a healthy child. And there she was. Ah, yes, I still remember that day. But there was another day that I can recall, a day that put the hair on the back of my neck just really standing up, goosebumps on the arms. It was the time when I was at the seminary. And it was after 15 or so years of arguing with God, saying, "Nah, you don't want me. No, I'm not good enough. Actually, I don't want it. I don't want to be a pastor." But finally giving in, and there I was at the seminary. It was the opening worship. And there I was, standing in the midst of a bunch of strangers. I didn't know a person, but my family was there. And I'm still wondering, while I'm standing there, why am I here? Am I doing the right thing? What is this all about? And then the opening hymn, the processional hymn began, and all of a sudden in that chapel, the voices just lifted up. Everyone was singing, of the likes that very seldom have I heard before and have since done. Oh, it was just filled with music, and the goosebumps came, and the hair stood up. And I said to myself, I know this is the place I need to be. I still remember that night, and I still remember that feeling. I thought to myself in that first year, if I could just capture that feeling, if I could, when becoming a pastor, being able to give that same feeling to each and every one of you who are gathered in worship, that you too could just be filled with the awe. If somehow I could plan worship in such a way that you would feel that sense of, it's good to be here, and that you didn't want to leave. In 25 years, I've come to realize that I can't do that. All the planning and all the music that we do, although we have had good music, and all that which we have tried to do, cannot do the same that has happened to me, because it wasn't me that did it. It was the Spirit of God dwelling in and amongst me. The Spirit of God that was speaking in a way to me in that time, and I'm hoping that sometime that same Spirit of God speaks to you in that same kind of way, where you have felt it is good to be here, and that you have felt like you were in the presence of God in such a way that you had never, ever experienced it likewise. Those moments. Peter, James, and John, they had that special time to walk up the mountain, to be with Jesus away from everyone else. All by themselves, they were there. They probably were wondering what they were doing. Why was Jesus going up? But probably was thinking that, Jesus was going to pray and we were going to be in this special time. But did they ever think that they would experience what had happened? There, they were in the midst of Jesus. And all of a sudden, he changed. He became such a glow. Dazzling white was his clothes, better than anyone could have ever bleached them. He was glowing in such a way that they had never seen before. Good old Peter, you know him. Peter, who just doesn't know how to shut up. And he goes up to Jesus and said, "Hey, isn't it great that we're here? Maybe I should build 3 booths so we can maybe just kind of capture this feeling and stay here forever." Have you ever been in a time where it's been that kind of awe feeling? With a group or something, and there's someone that just can't be quiet. They just want to talk all the time. They want to explain it away. They want to say something. Oh, isn't it great that we're here and all this stuff? And you just want to say, could you just close your mouth and let it happen? You know, I think that's probably what God wanted to say to Peter. Hey, Peter, just zip the lip. But God doesn't speak in those ways. God speaks in a different way. And the shadow of the cloud came upon them, and then the voice came. And this is what it said. This is my Son, the beloved. Now get this. Listen to him. It's like zip the lip and listen. You know, I think about that. In the midst of the presence of God, have you ever found yourself sitting in a stillness that you have allowed God to come to you? I don't know about you, but in my times of meditation or prayer, I find it's more about what I want to say. I find it's kind of one of the things like, in my prayer life, hey, God, got to let you know what I need. And I just rattle it off. Oh, yeah, and be with all the others that are in need. And we rattle those things off. But I find it difficult for me to be quiet, to be still. I wonder how often I have missed something. If I would just zip the lip and be still. How often have we come into this presence of this church? I often think, and I talk to the confirmands, and we talk about worship, and most of the people, of that age generation, that included me when I was there, that this time being with God is what? Boring. Or maybe it's not that. Maybe it's this. I just don't get anything from worship anymore. So I don't think I go. But have you ever come? Have you ever come into the midst of this worship expecting nothing? Have you ever come into this time of being in the presence of God and trying to open your heart and let God speak to you in the stillness of your mind? Or is it so cluttered with things just going that we forget to listen to God? When we get that way, so restless and so preoccupied, we miss those moments like Peter and James and John. They had such a wonderful experience. I'm hoping that one day you would be able to share with somebody a time that you have had. Perhaps whether it's here at the worship, or perhaps maybe it's when you have been on a walk and you have taken a moment just to let God talk to you. Maybe you've seen the glory of God shining in you, around you, and about you. I can only think of the time when I was at Bible camp. Oh, Jim. He was crazy. We came back from the bonfire. Oh, it was a beautiful night. We got into the cabin, and all Jim could say, "Be quiet, be quiet." We kept saying, "Jim, what's going on?" He said, "On top of the ridge I saw a cross. It was lit up. And the Lord spoke to me and told me to tell the camp to be quiet." Well, Yes, we thought Jim was crazy. But maybe the Lord was speaking to him. Maybe the Lord was saying something that was important, that we need to quiet ourselves, be in the stillness, and to listen to the Lord our God. For the Lord will lead us in ways that will be good. Just to let you know what happened to Jim, he became a pastor. I remember when I interviewed at Wartburg to become a student there, after I shared my story, I said, well, that's it. And the guy that was listening to my story said, well, you know, we're looking for some weird people. I didn't know if that was good or bad. You know, God's looking for you and me. God's speaking to you and me. Just be quiet and let God come to you. Listen, and He will lead you. Let God talk. Let us be quiet. And when you have that moment, know this: you don't get to stay there. The disciples were led down the mountain into their ordinary life. There, they were to share the good news of the presence of God that came from them, and so too comes to you.